And it's this electronic CVC unit that we need to replace, because I think that's not working. Because we've got full charge coming out of the Dynamo. We checked that, about 18 odd volts at full revs. Where's the Dynamo room? Behind the kickstart with the wires coming out there. But and basically it just goes from there to the CVC unit and straight to the ammeter, and there's absolutely nothing on the ammeter, and definitely nothing coming going into the battery. So I'm hoping it is that's the problem. We'll see. I think what I might be able to do, if necessary, I might be able to just wire the Dynamo straight up, so there's no voltage control. Not recommended, because of course it'll fry your battery, because it will just give out massive voltage. But at least then we can see that the whole circuit's working. What I'm saying is, if I get the new unit and when it comes back from being upgraded, if it still doesn't work, then I think that's what we basically wire that unit out and see if we've got some charge on the ammeter there. But we'll cross that bridge. The first thing we're going to do is just going to take this. Sorry, this is the replacement unit, which is built in such a way. I just mentioned it's quite clever when it was built that you put the old CVC cover unit on, and it looks like an original CVC unit. Okay, but of course it's not. What we should have, well, we'll see when the old new one comes back. So that's just an electronic load of stuff in there. But as I say, it was a clever idea, because of course it was way much better. And when you put the cover on, it looks like the original. You don't know that under there it's electronic. But I'm fairly sure it's out that's gone. And the company is out of business now, so there we go. Right, good. So I'm just going to clear up a little bit, but we're leaving stuff there for now, because, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this unit off. But basically we're not going to do much until the new unit comes back. One thing I am going to do is this wire that goes to the rear light, that's supposed to go underneath the mudguard, and it does annoy me greatly that it's visible. So I am going to be moving this wire back where it should be underneath the mudguard, so it will be invisible again, because that's always annoyed me a little bit. I've only had the bike a couple of weeks, but that's always annoyed me. Much more practical having it on the outside, because of course you can get to the connectors so much easier. But in my case, I'm never going to be taking the rear wheel off by the side of the road. I'm just not. I'm afraid, if I needed to take this wheel off by the side of the road, I ring the breakdown people, and they come bring the bike back here, and then I do it here. That's the way things are these days. I'm not messing about on the side of the road trying to get this. Gone are those days. I've done that. I've been there. I've done that. I've got the T-shirt and all that, and so now I only tend to ride around the local area. So if something goes wrong that I can't mend by the side of the road, I'll just ring the breakdown, bring it back, and then I've got the time and everything to sort it out at leisure. Because another thing, mending it by the side of the road, you generally only have to take it all apart again when you get it back to do it properly, So anyway, yeah. So I'm not bothered about having this wire where it should be, because I don't need the access, because if I ever need to take this mudguard off, I can do it again in the garage and take my time over it. It's no problem. Right. So I've replaced the original CVC unit, compensated voltage control, the original regulator, with an electronic one. A modern one, that was from classic Dynamo regulator conversions, but was way more expensive than I was anticipating. So that conversion cost me £180, which hurt a little. But it's because I have, decided that the reason the battery's not charging, it's not a problem with the Dynamo, And so the only other thing I can think of was the regulator. But my regulator was already updated with a modern unit. So that really shouldn't have gone wrong. And the thing is, I don't really know how to test it. All I know is that there was no current going from, there was coming out of the dynamo, but there was nothing coming out of the regulator. So I'm rather hoping it was the regulator that was at fault, because otherwise I spent 180 quid for nothing. Anyway, I've wired that in and bolted it back to the mudguard. And then at the same time, I've been having trouble with this breather, this breather pipe. So what I've done is I've connected it to a pipe and run that pipe all the way back up through the mudguard, goes up there, and then it comes out here, and then it will then connect. I'll cut this pipe down a bit and it'll connect there, and it exits out the bottom of the mudguard. Similarly, the wiring to the back light also goes under the mudguard now, so it'll be invisible. So I'm hoping that will work. I don't know if it will, because it's only a small breather pipe. Whether it's just going to fill full of oil and choke and clog, or I don't know. What I do know is it was throwing oil out of that. It really was. So the most obvious thing was to route it to the back. So I've done that, but because I wanted it invisible, it's quite a small pipe. The advantage, of course, is because there's no rear suspension, as long as the wheel clears the wiring and the pipe now, it will never touch. Like on a normal bike, obviously, that mudguard's going up and down with suspension, but it doesn't on this. And I've checked and it clears all that, so I think we're fine. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, maybe it was a great idea, and maybe it's a terrible idea, but time will tell. Okay, so having done that, we're now going to put the back wheel in. So we've got these holes in the side of the back wheel. All the bearings are good. And these holes locate with the brake plate here. So some of them have got the studs on that these three long bolts are going to connect to, and three of them have just studs just to hold the wheel, along with those three studs. So all we're going to do is we're going to wheel the wheel in a minute. I'm just going to I'll just get the phone sorted and then and put it in. But I'll put the phone up on a stand so we get an idea of seeing what we're doing. But in theory, it should be pretty straightforward. In theory.